Alright guys, this review is starting off a little differently because this thing is heavy as hell and I have it all set up, so I really do not want to move it around too much. So these are the inputs and outputs in the back of this thing. So, see you soon. Alright, so I don't even have to tell you that I'm not going to be picking this up and flipping it around and tapping on it like I usually do in my reviews. It's just too big and I really don't want to disturb it. Alright, so a little background. Until January of this year, I was using a Schiit Gungnir DAC as a DAC. That was my first DAC, and I didn't really think I needed anything more than that. Honestly, I thought that, you see, I basically needed to remove my audio signal from my laptop or desktop at the time so I could get rid of the electrical noise and, that whole thing, the reasons why you need a DAC and that sort of thing. But I was tempted to upgrade to the Modi 2 Uber, which I did, and I found it had a slightly blacker background and a little better separation. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought, well, I guess DACs do make a little difference, not too much though, not enough for me to go spend a lot of money. Then I got the AudioQuest Dragonfly, which I've also reviewed, and I found out that that had better separation and just better balance in the sound overall than even the Modi 2 Uber, which is around the same. In fact, it's cheaper than that. So this blew my mind once again, and I thought, well, what could the possibilities be beyond this? Now, the AudioQuest Dragonfly is a little bright sounding, so I wanted to go for something pretty heavy duty. Now, I don't buy my things new. I haven't bought a new item in quite a while because I frankly don't have the budget for it. I've been using Het5 buyer and seller stuff, and I bought this used as well, just recently, about a few weeks now. This is the Schiit Gungnir. This is about their second most expensive DAC in their line, but with a little difference. This is the USB 2 version. This is not the multi-bit. When people refer to the Gumby being one of the best DACs they've ever heard, they are referring to the multi-bit version of this, which is quite a bit more expensive. So keep that in mind if you're looking this up. And I don't really know the difference firsthand. I've never heard the Gumby. I have a friend who just bought the Gumby and he let me know. He has this too, so he'll compare the two before choosing which one to sell. So I'll get the word from him and I'll put it in the description later on. So why did I buy this? Because I was really curious. Because I was getting a liquid carbon on the way, and I thought, you know what, I need a really good DAC for this. I need something with balanced outputs. Which I thought, I want to try this whole balance thing. What is this all about? I want to know what it is. So I bought this. Now, this DAC, when I first plugged it in, I was still using this thing. My Magni 2, which is a very clean and neutral sounding, to my ears, transparent amp. Now, a lot of people would be like, well, that's a bit of a mismatch, This thing was supposed to be used with the Mjolnir, which is, Schiit Mjolnir too. Have that over this, that whole thing, but you got this tiny little amp. Doesn't matter, this tiny little amp does a lot of good work, so, this wasn't even though it looks funny in size difference, this was not a bad choice to do. Like, this solid state amp, very clean, great, you can use it with that. But why am I about to praise this DAC? The reason is this DAC really, that whole stereotype you hear everybody say when they buy new headphones or new gear, you heard things you never heard before. Well, that's exactly what happened with some of the oldest songs the songs I've been listening to since my childhood. This was digging out new things. It's very strange. It's like the mix that you thought you knew was not exactly what you thought you knew. There were things buried in there, and this would just reach in and pull them out. Pull out all those little subtle tracks and bring them to the forefront and really make them stick out in the recording. Suddenly, obviously, like what I'm saying, you have a lot more separation, a lot more detail. And there was so much detail when I first plugged this in. I was very surprised. It was a little overwhelming, to be honest. It was because this DAC, it doesn't pull any punches. It's my Modi 2 was quite subdued compared to this. Even the Audio Quest Dragonfly was subdued compared to this. This does not care. This will push sound at you at full force. This is not laid back sounding. In fact, some might even think it's a little harsh in that regard, but I think that's a good thing, especially when paired with warm headphones like my ZMF Omni and a slightly warm amp, which I will review later, my Liquid Carbon. So I found that very cool, a very analytical sound, and I found that to be quite ideal. But this thing also impressed me in another way. It made the bass a lot more controlled and increased. You see the ZMF Omni I have has very good sub bass. It's a very bassy headphone, bass and mids, bass, and that whole kind of thing. So this really controlled it better. Even with this amp, which wasn't powering it to its full capacity, it's quite hungry. And even though this does a great job, this made it even better because it made the bass more controlled, more leveled, and it reached down deeper. So the impressive sub bass that I thought I had before was suddenly even better, which I had no idea that could do. Like I knew it could, the blackness of the background, the separation, the details, even the soundstage a bit. Yes, it can affect those things. But bass, that really blew my mind. I could not believe it. I was like, if I post this on our headphones right now, I'm pretty sure people are going to be like, you're crazy, and all DACs are transparent, and that whole thing that's going on these days. So, just cautiously saying to you guys, I've drunk the Kool-Aid, there is something to it. There is something to this. And honestly, I was kind of rooting against this when I first bought this, because I thought, you know what, if I don't hear that much difference between this and the Dragonfly or the Muddy, then I'll just sell this and I'll save some money. Well, I'm keeping this. I'm keeping this thing because this has made my setup better. For the money, yes, I would say it's definitely made it better. Compared to the Gumby, I don't know. I'll let you know later. But this thing is so... it's made my music just so much better. I don't think I can give this up now. This has ruined my ears for everything else out there. I can't... it's made my Fio X1 sound like crap. Now I'm trying to get rid of that and buy something else, like a better DAP, like a Basso or something. I don't know. So I'm just trying to DACs, are not transparent. There is something to this technology. There's some voodoo going on here. I'm not sure what it is, but this thing has really increased the enjoyment of my music. It's made my Omni, which some people say is not a very resolved sounding headphone because of the lack of highs a little bit, like it's a little rolled off. This has improved that by quite a large margin, especially when paired with the Magni. With the Liquid Carbon, it's because the Liquid Carbon is a bit warm and the Omni's warm, so a little clash there. But that's fine. Still sounds great. The details on this, it strips away all the processing from things and brings them out, makes them sound like they should. Now, I have not heard the redressal. I've not heard those really fancy $5,000, DACs, the Moon something, that sort of thing. Haven't heard them. I can't imagine, because when you've reached this point, when you're listening to this and you're thinking, damn, that is the best I've ever heard my music sound in my entire life, my 11, 12 years of gathering music on my computer, switching them from hard drive to hard drive, going from MP3 to FLAC and that whole thing. I can't imagine it being much better. I'm sure it could be, to an extent, but diminishing returns and all that. I think for this price, this is one of the best you can buy in terms of analytical sound and just the sheer power of it. I know the audio, I know someone who told me the Audio GD DAC 19, which is also similar price to this, that has a more musical sound to it, not so harsh and analytical. So if that's more your thing, you can go check that out, I guess. I have never heard that, by the way. But this thing, Really, really blown my mind. I'm glad I got an okay deal on this, buying it used. In the future, I might get it upgraded to the multi-bit. I'm not sure because unlike in America where it costs $500, in the UK it costs £465, which is about I checked last night $690. So nearly $200 more than what Americans would pay. So I'm a bit peeved about that. So I'm not sure if I'll upgrade this because even as it is, it sounds amazing, and it's only pure curiosity that will make me push further than this. And right now, I don't have the budget for either, so I'm pretty satisfied with this being broke and buying all the stuff that I've bought and keeping it. This is a keeper, and I'm going to keep it. I would recommend this to anyone who has the money to spend on a DAC. If you can audition it at a trade show or some kind of headphone meet, definitely go ahead and do that with your headphones that you have and the ones you use the most often. Before I get into disadvantages, I like to just reiterate this is the USB version 2 version. When the Gungnir first came out, it was not this. Obviously, it didn't have this. This was included as an upgrade. I think now the USB 2 version is the standard, and there's either you can buy this now or you can buy the multi-bit for a couple $100 more. Alright, disadvantage. Now this is a pretty big disadvantage, by the way. If you're using wasabi in food bar and stuff, if you want that really, straight source to the whole, the reason people use these sorts of things. And you really want to be careful because when this switches bit rates, if everything you have is in CD quality, that is fine. 44.1, that's fine. You will never have this problem. If you're like me and you have stuff in different bit rates, you're going to be jumping quite often from CD quality to 96 to 192 back again, this sort of thing. Well, what happens is every time you switch bit rates on this, it makes a very loud clicking sound. Not in your headphones. Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to be a buzzing sound in your headphones that make you throw them off. No. It's going to be coming from inside this unit. So it's going to be a loud clicking sound when it switches over bit rates. Now, another problem, and this is a pretty big problem by the way, is when you're switching the bit rate, let's say you jump from CD quality is the most consistent by the way. If you jump from CD quality to, let's say, 192 straight away, it'll make the clicking sound, but then nothing will be playing. So you'll be sitting there thinking, okay, it's plugged in, but there's no sound playing, and I know this can handle 192, what's going on? Well, that means you'll have to switch to another song which is in CD quality, so it starts playing again, and then jump back to the 192 file again, then it'll play. Now this doesn't happen all the time. This will maybe happen, let's say, 40% of the time, which is still quite a bit. But now that I know that it can be easily switched over and fixed, I don't mind it too much. But that could be a disadvantage. It's not very consistent in that manner. I'm not sure why it does that. But yeah, just keep that in mind when you're switching bit rates around. If you don't hear anything for a while in the higher bit rates, you should switch back to the CD quality, then back to that. And quite frankly, I'm not sure if that's something to do with this version, the USB 2 version, and if the multi-bit has that or not. The multi-bit is pretty new, by the way. Came out last year, second half of last year. So they might have fixed that issue, I don't know. But where I see that with the USB 2 version, this does happen. So keep that in mind. So to wrap things up, overall, I absolutely love this DAC. It's made my music sound so much better. It's going to make me be criticized now by people who are going to come and show me graphs and stuff and say, no, by the way, you're wrong about this, that, or the other. Well, quite frankly, guys, I don't care because this is what I hear, and my hearing isn't crap. I can hear things pretty well. This sounds great. And this is a huge step above my Dragonfly, my Modi 2 Uber, my Modi 1 of course. Just a huge jump ahead. Justifiably because of the price. I can definitely recommend this. And if you have one of these, another disadvantage will obviously be the size. Because look at this, this is like a VCR size. And yeah, just keep that in mind. I know some audiophiles have like massive equipment piled on top of each other, so in that case, this isn't so bad. But if you're like me and you're living in like a little apartment where you don't have like a permanent space to live, this is a bit of a frivolous purchase in that regard. But it doesn't matter. I'll be lugging this around with me wherever I go because it's just that good. So catch you later next time, and thanks for watching.